I want to read a quote that I think is really important to these next two speakers. And it's a quote by Frederick Douglass, which is one of my favorites. And it's, "The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress." So what does that mean? That means you get the level of tyranny you're willing to accept. And you're going to get it until you say no. Until you say, that's it, right? They're gonna keep being tyrannical until somebody says, no, we're not doing that. Our next speaker is Lynn Genrich, and she's a volunteer with New Jersey Human Action. And she is a fired healthcare professional. She was fired after invoking a religious exemption to masks, vaccinations, and testing. So she did not yield. She said, no, I'm out. So we're going to bring her up here to tell her story. So please welcome Lynn. Thank you.
I love my sunglasses, but I'll take them off for a little bit. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone that's here today. This actually means a lot to me personally. My name is Lynn Genrich, and like James just said, I am a fired healthcare professional, and I'm also a volunteer for New Jersey Human Action. I didn't know where I was going to begin with this. I've got a lot of information here. If anybody ever wants to take a look at my religious exemption, I have it here, and anyone is welcome to take a look at it. I'm actually going to start my story from this past summer. I spent 2 weeks out of state to visit my family, and it was a wonderful time. And on my way back, on my return, my employer was expecting me to do what I call the nasal assault. So on my return to New Jersey, I notified my employer that, hey, I'm coming back. I'll be back to work Monday morning. I'll be ready for the OR at 6:30 in the morning. And my employer, actually my director of nursing, messaged me and said, hey, Lynn, upon your return, we're going to have to do the nasal assault. People call it the COVID test. To me, it's the nasal assault. Now, to me, the nasal assault goes against what I believe. I believe that, according to my God-given conscience, is that I'm not to be doing harm to my body, and to me, that would be causing harm to my body. So I let her know that I'm healthy, and I am not a sick person, and therefore I'm going to respectfully decline the nasal assault. And she said, well, you can't do that. You can't do that. If you don't take the nasal assault, we are not going to pay you for 10 days, and you have to stay home, and we don't want you coming here, and you need to lock down in your home and until we know that you're healthy. And I told her that for my health, and this includes my spiritual health, that I would not be taking the nasal assault. So I did what any healthy American living in New Jersey would do. I took my 10 days off, unpaid, and I went to the beach. So I was there soaking up the vitamin D. I had my toes in the sand, eating some good food. Got my hair in the salty water, and I felt amazing. So I took the 10 days unpaid. Upon my return, things got heated at work, to a point where someone I respect a lot and I actually cared for was a surgeon that I worked for. He and I were in the operating room with a patient there, and it was actually a pretty exciting day. We had a new nurse beginning her job, and I was very excited for her to have a new OR team member. And this surgeon stand right beside me. He says, above a patient that's lying on the table, he says, you got to be pretty flippin' stupid to not receive the vaccine by now. And I felt about this tall. And I knew that comment was for me. That whole day working in the OR was a very, very long day. It was very stressful. I felt belittled, I felt harassed, and maybe not directly, but indirectly. We had a medical director that was talking about he wanted everyone that was unvaccinated to have a sticker put on their locker in the locker room. So that was going around for some time, and that caused a lot of concern for myself that a medical professional would actually even have a thought to put a sticker on my locker because I was not vaccinated. There was a lot of other things going on. Now, mind you, I loved my job. Please don't think that, why didn't you just leave? Why didn't you just quit? If tension was high, if you were feeling harassed and threatened, coerced, why would you stay? I loved my job. I felt that this is my calling, is to work in the OR. So I stuck it out, and there was a meeting upon meeting upon meeting, which is funny because a lot of times I missed a lot of meetings because when you're in the OR, you're in the OR all day. You don't get to leave. So there was a meeting that I actually got to attend, and our director of nursing made the comment that, hey, by the way, on this date, everybody needs to come in with a negative test result for COVID. Oh, and by the way, you have to pay for your test. And hey, don't even think about leaving. If you think about leaving and going to another facility, all the facilities in New Jersey are doing this. I've already contacted them. So don't even think you're getting another job somewhere else. So on that note, I felt like I need to take action. And this is my line in the sand, like Bill Spady has said. This was my line in the sand. So I decided that I'm not going to buy a COVID test. I'm not going to take a COVID test or nasal assault. I'm not going to assault myself. So when that day came around, that morning that we had to have the nasal assault and proof that we took the nasal assault and that, we tested negative, I showed up at work. And I was expected to be wearing a mask when I walked in the door. And when I walked in, I said, can you please give this to, my supervisor? And it was, I was invoking my sincerely held religious beliefs. And a nurse approached me, and she took the paperwork. She says, I'll get this to her. And I said, okay. And I said, I'll just wait outside. And I knew what time my boss got into work, so I actually went and sat in my car. So a little while later, I see my supervisor pull up into the parking lot. She was rushing into work, so I was pretty confident that someone called her and told her what was going on. She rushes into the building, and I timed it exactly. 16 minutes later, I get a phone call, and it's the director of nursing, and I say hello. And yet it wasn't the director of nursing. It was actually my boss using her cell phone. She says, Lynn, where are you? And I said, I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot. She's like, okay, where are you at? So I get out of the car and I stand up. I didn't even realize she left the building and she was in the parking lot looking for me. So she approached me, and the first thing she said to me, now mind you, I gave 110% every single day, every single patient. I was always the one volunteering for overtime. She approaches me and says, you couldn't have done this sooner? And I was so taken aback, like what? And she says, you couldn't have done this sooner? And I knew what that meant. That meant that we had a really busy schedule, a lot of surgeries were going on that day, and I drew my line in the sand. So I was actually speechless. I didn't even know what to say to that. So So then she says, Lynn, your services are no longer required. You are an at-will employee, and you'll need to know those legal terms. That paperwork I submitted was a sincerely held religious belief, not just against vaccines, but against the masks, COVID tests, and vaccines. It's wrong. It goes against not only my religious beliefs, but my ethical and my moral beliefs. My only regret out of all this is I wish I would have done it sooner. I wish I would have said no sooner. It's not that I lost my job. It's that I didn't put my foot down immediately. Now, I have paperwork here. We can talk about the Constitution. We can talk about Title VII of the U.S. Civil Rights Act. We can talk about the law all day long. I got all the paperwork. But even regardless of that, it's still wrong. So for any employer out there that's saying, we don't accept religious exemptions, number one, it's against the law. But second of all, it's wrong. I didn't have to, but I also submitted a religious exemption with the pastor's letter of attestation. They didn't deserve that, but I provided it anyway. Now, someone did make the comment to me that, well, it'd be pretty hard to prove in court in front of a judge that you had a sincerely held religious belief when you were wearing the mask. Well, they weren't there when the coercion happened. They weren't there to be afraid of losing their job and washing their whole career down the toilet. But I will tell you this, regardless, no matter how much I love my job, no matter how much I love being an advocate for patients, I love my soul more. And I want to say thank you to everybody here, and especially to the people that have their children here, because they need to see this. I feel that my God-given conscience is my communication to my Creator. Now, whether you believe that or not is okay, but this is still wrong. So please fight with me, fight with Ian, fight with everybody. No, there needs to be a mass non-compliance. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Please give more applause for Lynn. Courage is contagious. This is a fact. So when someone like Lynn stands up and defends her principles, others see that and they follow, and it inspires others. I know I'm inspired. Thank you, Lynn.